Can you say tonight that political violence is never acceptable?
Well, of course that's right. And of course, I'm the one that had very little of it. Take a look at wars. Again, I didn't start, I wasn't involved in war. I am not going to be a dictator. I'm going to manage like we did. We were so successful that the country was coming together. It was actually coming together and coming together well. It was a beautiful thing to see. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
Keep yapping, man.
Folks, in our lives, the life of our nation, there are moments so stark that they divide all that came before from everything that followed. Moments that force us to confront hard truths about ourselves, our institution, and democracy itself. We see the law firms bowing to pressure, bending to bullies, instead of staying rooted in justice and the law, including some of the largest newspapers in America. We see the apparent glee some of our politicians express as while watching immigrants who are in this country legally, torn from the arms of their family, dragged away in handcuffs from the only home they've ever known. Look, folks, you can't sugarcoat this. These are dark days, but you're all here for the same reason. It's because our future is literally on the line.
This is the Chug Life Podcast. Hey everybody, so when I made this, I intended it to be a video, but yeah, things didn't go the way I planned. So this is instead going to be an audio only. I hope you guys enjoy it. I did give some audio idea about what's going on, some audio description, but next time, it'll be different. You guys enjoy. Bye. Howdy, everybody. This is Michael, and this is another episode in the Chug Life Podcast. And today I've got a very heartbreaking subject to talk to you guys about, but it is incredibly important and near and dear to my heart. If you are below the age of 18, you already know it. You cannot listen to this unless you're with a parent or something, or you want to be psychologically damaged for a bit. We will be talking about subjects that are considered for more mature audiences. Let's just put it that way. So today we're discussing Gaza. And the reason why this is so important for me to discuss, I guess, is that it is currently in a really weird position compared to where it was a month ago. Things are kind of heading towards a ceasefire. Things are kind of looking good on the diplomatic side, but the brutal reality is that it is still very, very bad for the people on the ground in Gaza. The Israelis have ramped up their attacks. They have continued bombing them, and it is absolutely horrible to imagine where this is going to be here in the next few months, just with the amount of casualties. We're already hearing the amount to be in the low 60,000 and in the high a couple 100,000. And this includes casualties, as far as I'm aware, as well as deaths. And the majority of that is on the Palestinian side. The unfortunate reality is they do not have a lot going for them right now. And the Israelis have cornered the market of public opinion and cornered every diplomatic avenue they can, but it's biting them in the ass now. They are committing horrible atrocities, and they are hurting so many people that they do not have any business to be there and be doing that. We will be releasing an episode to discuss the West Bank and give you guys the idea of the everyday life on that side. And I will be honest, the comparison is just night and day in a lot of cases. It's still horribly brutal for the Palestinian people. Don't get me wrong, but you don't see as much direct military interference, although there are soldiers involved. It is very different to how the Israeli army operates in Gaza and how the naval forces and even the Air Force operates with just blatant use of firepower for no reason. It is not any battle. There is nobody shooting at you, and they're firing. That's the deal. So heading into this, setting the stage, this is what the occupational force acts like. They are brutally firing and committing atrocious crimes. And in broad daylight, there is absolutely nobody to stop them. It doesn't matter when they do it, how they do it. It's not going to make a difference. The unfortunate reality is that they have used October 7th to corral public opinion, and they have done a masterclass on propaganda. They have spent hundreds of millions on getting their hands into TikTok and buying other influencers. You can go and find Excel sheets of the influencers and the ones that have been paid. It is incredible. And it is absolutely heartbreaking to just think about what's happening in Gaza, man. So this is on the screen here, we're doing another video session. I can't believe that, these are getting more and more frequent. But, I'm enjoying these to be able to give you guys the view as well of what I'm talking about. So, as you may see here, we are just about the halfway point of this video here, and it's a map of Gaza, or I believe it's the more northern side of it, but it looks like it might be the whole part of it. But this just gives you an idea of how much has been bombed and how much just it is absolutely barren land. And there's so many videos going around that showcase this in more brutal fashion, like the one we're going to be using for the cover. So if you see that, that'll give you the idea from the more ground level. But the destruction here is very whole. And, there's more areas towards the coastline. I've noticed there's also some photos where you can pretty much see a solid row of neighborhoods and whatnot for a few miles. So there is still at least housing for Gazans, but it is absolutely heartbreaking. There's so much destruction. I can't imagine. And you can absolutely just imagine the lines upon lines. Well, you don't have to imagine. We'll show you a photo as well, of people walking in corridors to along the coastline to Gaza, trying to get back up north. And, just to give you the idea here, you're talking about a couple million people. All right. And, granted, there's not a couple million people in these lines. There's probably hundreds of thousands. But that's still an insane amount of people. And these guys have boats off of the coastline. The Israelis have boats off the coastline, of course, because Palestinians, if they try to fish, they're going to get shot. So you can't fish. I did see that when the flotilla came in, they were able to go and fish because apparently the Israeli Navy was too busy. So they did get some solid amount of fish out of that water. It was incredible to see that. But the amount of abuse that happens, and it is so complete, so total, you would think almost genocidal. Basically, these guys shoot off of the shore with their boats to try and hit Gazans by the coast. And, you're talking about quite a lot of people, guys. All right, like this is an insane amount of people that are going to be walking along that coastline at any one time. These guys are just taking pot shots over there, man. It's insane. So this video is pretty horrible. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, but this is from an Israeli provider. So we start off in the middle. It looks like a drone, possibly, so that kind of makes more sense. But hopefully the quality is going to pick up here. Probably not. That's unfortunate. But this should give you an idea of just the neighborhood upon neighborhood upon neighborhood. And you can't see an intact roof. Everything has holes in it. Everything is messed up. It is just disgusting. The amount of... this may actually work out better here. But... this is some stuff you would imagine is like Poland 1940, man. Like this guy says down here, but it's just insane. It's just all damaged houses. This drone goes on for miles. You won't see a house that hasn't been bombed in some form. But I'm going to show you guys one more thing. So one of their main justifications when they started doing these kind of attacks, and they just kind of hit everything right, is they would put out these videos, really well-made videos, of course. Kind of amazed. How did these guys get this good video or information to be able to locate all this stuff? And well, it's because they would use AI and they would steal other people's animations, their 3D animations, to plant stuff in these videos that we wouldn't notice. Promise you, none of us would ever notice this. It's impossible. Okay, so this goes on for a while. We all believe it. Okay, this looks good. This information's good. It's Mossad, dude. Right? There's a lot of problems with this, man. All I'm saying is it sounds fishy as hell. So, where is all of the stuff? Oh, God, I just realized I've only been shown the screen, the photo. That's funny. Okay. So you guys haven't seen anything I showed you. That's absolutely wonderful. Well, we'll just I guess continue on here. We'll pick up right off of that. So some of the problems that come from the use of all this fake stuff to try and propagate a view it actually comes from U.S. tactics back in the day, but we just did it with our words and abuse diplomacy, just kind of shitting in front of the UN and being like, eat it, and they would eat it. And that's just kind of how shit worked. Big boss do big boss things. But there's a big problem with Israel doing that. Because now when the world starts actually rallying and it just ends up being the U.S. kind of sticking up for them, it's a problem for us too. And, well, there's a lot going on in the public about why are we supporting Israel. And, well, we're supporting them to the tune of like a dozen billion, probably more. Why just like, why don't we not, you know? I mean, we stop maintaining their shit. What happens? What would be the result? Okay. Well, the main problem, in my opinion, the most important issue that would stem out of this whole thing, we would have to deal with Iran by ourselves, and we would also have a really pissed off Israel. So I'm unsure, personally, how much we could deal with. You know, like, we don't know how deep they are into the government, into everything. That's the main problem, guys. I'm gonna give you the fucking straight. We have been hooked to this from the beginning. We hitched our ride and said we're gonna fucking ride this till it falls off, dude. And it's because of the strategic positioning. And also our deep fervor in the U.S. matches pretty well with the Zionist movement. So ultra right wing's going to help the ultra right wing. And I do think that has some traction, but the big issue is that it is at the cost of millions, probably, lives. It's going to hurt a lot of people. So I think that is a huge fucking problem. Frankly, I think that to start off, we should decouple, and there should be a rearranging of how we view the Middle East with Syria. Now, maybe we can pull off of Turkey too. Get Syria nice and fucking strong and fuck everybody, dude. We're good. Now, that might actually start a war with Israel, I'll be honest with you. A strong Syria would be Israel's worst fucking nightmare. That's why they bombed the shit out of them. They bombed every fucking thing that could walk, that had a gun, that looked like it had a gun. It didn't matter. It's just, you know, I hate to be flippant about this, but the subject really bums me out. You know, thinking about genocide really fucking bums me out, guys. I don't know what to tell you. So the situation here in regards to Palestine, in regards to Gaza itself, it is atrocious. All right, there is not a lot of hope for the people there, and we need to continue the pressure. And I think this will feed through our politics eventually. And it's going to be very strong, and it's going to be great. And there's a lot of problems with how Israel views us, because they kind of view us like they can just control us, do whatever the hell they want, and nothing's going to ever happen. And I think it would be absolutely incredible if we just proved the fuckers wrong. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to continue talking about Gaza and why it is so just absolutely heartbreaking. Because, well, as we speak, the ceasefire is a thing, right? We're talking about it. We're negotiating. You and I know, right? Well, why are they still attacking and doing shit? Other than just being absolute fucking war criminals. You know, they're having to just dig out children and little boys from rubble. Boys, little children. It's just absolutely disgusting stuff. You know, you think about the damage that this is going to do eventually to all of the generations that learn about this stuff. Learn about think about how the Zionists turned out because of the treatment under Hitler and his fucking people. That stuff breeds such horrible, that treatment breeds such horrible ideologies. Oh man, it is absolutely heartbreaking, man. Because so many futures just getting snuffed out because of Benjamin Netanyahu. And, we are helping this. There's very few places that don't have something to do with this. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But we are the most complacent as the United States. It's not good, guys. So, in regards to how this is currently going for Palestine, not good. In regards to how this is going to end for Israel, also not good. But for us, it's to be determined. We could decouple from this a dozen billion a year or more, probably more, 100% more actually, project, little pet project or whatever. But I just don't ever imagine that happening unless we continue the pressure and just keep ratcheting it up on the 90% of Congress that has IPAC money. Because there are people that are speaking up, and the Congress people and reps that have the balls to go and hold their town halls are having to face these questions. So, it's great, but I wish we could do more. And so I'm just kind of here to segue us into discussing the other portion of the brutal war that is ongoing with the Palestinian people. Because while we see horrendous bombing and ground campaigning ongoing in Gaza, and we see relentless battles, quote unquote, with empty houses and empty shacks, and they turn whole neighborhoods into parking lots, essentially. We have to think about what's happening 50 miles the other way. What is going on with our other friends in the West Bank? And guys, it is not great. Also, are you surprised? I mean, I'd be surprised if you didn't know about this, but, well, the West Bank, it's just kind of like, for some reason, just as bad. But like I said, bad in another way. In a way that you kind of don't expect. But here's the situation. There are people, the Palestinians, living in the West Bank. And that's their land. Now, Israeli settlers want that land too. Now, the problem is they just can't outright go and do it unless the people leave. And so they get to pretty creative means. They send children, and those children then go and harass the people living on the land. They stand near them. They shit talk them. Sometimes they push them. Sometimes they hit them. Spit on them. Whatever the fuck they want, because the law is on their side. And eventually when the law does come, they'll arrest you. Because why are you bothering the Israeli? He's trying to get his land, bro. And then you get dragged off, beat, put in a chokehold, and then put in a Negev prison. The reality in the West Bank is absolutely horrible. It is one of the most devastating stories one can hear. And we will be telling you some of it in this upcoming episode. But I do want to walk you guys through some of how this happened. And in reality, it's an incredibly long and complex story that started in the 50s and continues. So, it was started with 3 areas. And these areas were controlled by a Palestinian, then a joint area with the Israeli. But the Israeli area was 60% of all the land. Now, any areas, you have to go through checkpoints, of course, as a standard now, but it's just way more brutal, way more frequent. There's like way more of them, an unnecessary amount of them. But to continue my point, this was started under the Oslo Accords. And in my opinion, and under a lot of opinions, it's just a failure. So, there is an economic portion of this. It's the Paris Protocols. But essentially, there's customs. Okay? And the Israelis, and essentially just do whatever the fuck they want. And the Palestinians have to use Israeli money. Now, obviously, this is a big fucking deal. Because now you have to pay Israeli taxes too. And lots of them. So, there's an area, the 60% area, of course, a bunch of Israeli settlements. Now, what is going to be the big problem, you think, right? There's 60% of the areas. Do you think the Israelis are going to give the better land to the Palestinians? No. So, a lot of the land is cultivated by Israelis. Now, what does that mean for all the hundreds of millions in Palestine? Hundreds of thousands in Palestine as a whole at this point. Well, they're kind of in a big old situation because can't really farm. A lot of what they want to do is going to be controlled by Israeli. And I do want to say that it is a big, big problem when all the bosses are completely different. You know, they believe they're a completely different race, culture, peoples as a whole, than the people who would essentially work under them. It's just going to basically turn out to be some form of slavery at some point. So, and that thought could be full, far-fetched, I'm sure, but I'm just saying, with the dynamic in power that would eventually come there, I think it would become a huge problem for the workers. And those guys wouldn't have unions or anything like that. So it would just become a huge problem for how they would be treated and how their work would be measured. So there's a lot of issues that come out of this moment because you have a lot of people that are trying to figure out how to be. And all of this kind of leads to a big old rebel movement. And there is so much that happens during those 30 years that it is mind-blowing to consider how much hatred must have been cultivated within those two different warring cultures. And, it does lead to a lot of wars, as we know, obviously. But there is a period there where it kind of builds. There's a lot of build going on in each side. And there is terrorists, eventually, that come out of that hatred. And of those years of silence, it builds an Islamic rebel movement. And the problem that arises out of that is that, well, now the Israelis are going to get more involved. And instead of them owning a lot of the land and most of the land, they're going to try and just own everything. And that's the problem. And, that's where we're at now, I would say. But, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff because I do want to leave a lot of the West Bank conversation to when we drop this next episode. But I wanted to kind of discuss, just the similarities to how people in Gaza are treated and how the West Bank is treated as a whole, and kind of give you some background because it's all incredibly important to just understanding the Israeli mindset going into trying to annex Palestine as a whole. And man, it is brutal, guys. There's so many different adjectives I could use, but at the end of the day, it's a lot more simpler. Let's just put it that way. So, West Bank settlers, they attack people that live there, the Palestinians. And it becomes a brutal war for dozens upon dozens of years, up until now, believe it or not. So, essentially, what that leads to is settlers coming in, they try and cut the water pipes. They run around the houses, they throw rocks at you, they throw rocks through the windows. And a lot of these guys are fucking war criminals, dude. There are although there's children, full-blown 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, that age, just doing whatever the fuck they want, sitting on the couches, hanging out, sitting on the rocks by the fucking house, just like they own the place. And that just gives you an idea to how they treat other people's land. And you have to remember that these are people that have the military behind them. So there is going to be absolutely no pushback whatsoever, because what the fuck are you going to do? You're going to go to prison when the Israeli police pull up. They're just going to believe that kid. And plus you hit a kid in their eyes, so it's even worse. You're double fucked. So that's why they use these children, kind of like children soldiers, child soldiers. One would think some shit that they would, continuously use. But yeah, that's how they do it. So I'm gonna flash into October 7th very quickly. And just kind of give you some numbers about, to give you that consideration to compare from 815 people killed by Hamas and yeah, I have a number here that doesn't make sense, but I'm not even gonna say that. So it's kind of incredible that we have 60,000 plus now over Hamas going and killing 815. That's also, a gnarly consideration. When we have 300 plus journalists killed in Gaza, and that's just that we know. On top of that, so it's just nuts. Everybody has to go to a regular schmegler kind of court, and the Palestinians have to go to a military court. So that's even worse. For being a Palestinian, you have to go and deal with the military now, if you have anything. It just continues in the role of trying to establish complete supremacy over peoples. And we're not even discussing the absolutely horrible conditions that they live under and the horrible conditions that they have to exist under. So, on that note, I'm going to encourage you all to go and love life. And if you haven't already, speak out. Free Palestine. Have a good one.